On Christmas Eve, my 7-year-old woke me with a whisper that sounded like a warning. Mom, Mom, please wake up. When I opened my eyes, the room was still black. I grabbed my phone and squinted. 5:41 a. Too early for kindness. Too early for whatever my daughter was holding like it might burn her. Harper stood beside my bed in reindeer pajamas, hair sticking up, cheeks wet, hands clenched around a folded sheet of paper so tightly her knuckles had gone pale. She was shaking, silent and terrified, like her body had decided the world was unsafe and didn't bother telling her mouth. What's wrong? I pushed myself upright and did the automatic mother scan. Blood, bruises, fever. Harper shook her head, eyes huge, and extended the paper with both hands. I found it on the kitchen table, she whispered. I think it's from Grandma. I took it carefully. The handwriting was familiar. My mother's neat, practiced script, the one she used for thank you cards and notes on leftovers. We're going to Aspen for a few days. You and Harper need to be out before we get back. Don't make a scene. That was it. No Merry Christmas, no love you, just a cold instruction, like an eviction notice. My stomach dropped. Harper's gaze didn't leave my face. Is Grandma mad at me? She asked, voice wobbling. Did I do something wrong? There are truths that belong to adults because they can crush children. I swallowed hard, pushed my panic down where it wouldn't leak into my voice, and said, No, absolutely not. This isn't your fault. Her bottom lip trembled. She tried to hold it in, like she'd learned that crying too loudly makes grown-ups sigh. I pulled her into my arms, pressed my mouth to her damp hair, and let her cling to me. Listen to me, I murmured. We're okay, I promise. I'm right here. Stay in bed, I told her gently, tucking the blanket around her shoulders. I'm going to check something. I stepped into the hallway and immediately felt it. Not quiet. Empty. No coffee smell, no TV murmur, no footsteps, no clatter of my father's mug against the counter. I walked to the entryway. Yesterday there had been suitcases there. My mother's gray rolling case, my father's garment bag. Now the corner was blank. The coat hooks were half empty too. I moved to the front window and looked at the driveway. Their car was gone. They didn't just write the note. They left. At dawn. Without saying a word to the child sleeping down the hall. I called my mother. Straight to voicemail. I called my father. Voicemail. I called again because denial is free. Voicemail. I went back to Harper's room. She was sitting up now, arms wrapped around herself, eyes fixed on me. Are they here? She asked. Not right now, I said softly. But I am. I stepped back into the hall and called my brother, Ethan. He answered on the second ring, voice thick with sleep. Lila? Ethan. Where are Mom and Dad? A pause just long enough to tell me everything. You saw the paper, he exhaled. My hand tightened around the phone. You knew? It's not, he started, then stopped. Mom said she was going to tell you. And you believed her? My voice came out colder than I intended. Ethan sighed. She said you've been there too long. They want a break. A real trip. No kids. Harper is 7. Lila. Put Mom on. I cut him off. I heard shuffling. Then my mother's voice slid onto the line, bright and practiced. Lila, she said. You're up early. Are you serious? I asked. You left that note where Harper could find it. A sharp breath. Annoyance. Not remorse. Oh, for heaven's sake. If she saw it, she saw it. Children make everything a tragedy. My throat burned. She asked me if you hate her. Don't be dramatic, my mother snapped. She's with you. What's the problem? Where are we supposed to go? I asked. You'll figure it out, she said, breezy as ever. You're an adult. Independence is healthy. I looked down at the note again, at the neat letters, at the confidence of someone who believed they could discard me and still keep access to everything I provided. Something inside me clicked. Not rage. Clarity. Okay, I said quietly. She hesitated. Okay, what? Nothing, I replied, voice smooth. Enjoy Aspen. I hung up. Then I sat at the kitchen table and did not cry. I opened my banking app instead, because survival is a schedule. I started scrolling through recurring payments utilities I'd been helping with. The internet bill my father forgot to put in his name. The grocery subscription my mother insisted was for everyone. I didn't shout. I didn't call anyone back. I made one small change after another, the kind of changes that don't feel like revenge until someone tries to use what you quietly removed. The house wasn't just where Harper and I were staying. For the last year and a half, it had been the place I returned to after my divorce because my parents promised support and stability. In return, my money had threaded itself through their lives like wiring. I paid part of the power bill. I covered the phone plan since it's cheaper as a bundle. I bought groceries because you're here anyway. I even co-signed a home improvement loan when my father said the bank would give them a better rate with my name on it. Just paperwork, my mother had called it, as if my signature was a flourish. So when I opened my bank app, I wasn't looking for revenge. I was looking for exits. I switched off every auto withdrawal tied to their accounts. I changed passwords they'd needed once and never stopped using. I removed my card from shared bills they'd been letting me handle because the truth was simple. If I was disposable enough to be evicted by a note, then my money was disposable too. Then I opened the one portal that mattered most, the payment page for the private school program my mother loved to brag about, the one she'd convinced me to help with for the family. My card was still saved there from last semester, waiting like a weapon. 2 taps. Delete. 2 more. Turn off autopay. Confirm. All small changes. All quiet. All placed in exactly the spots my family depended on me without admitting it. And when my parents realized what I'd done, they went pale. To understand why I didn't call back begging, you have to understand my family's favorite game, pretending my help was a gift they gave me. When I was a kid, it was just me. I didn't know what unfair looked like because I had nothing to compare it to. My parents weren't warm, but they were functional. Dinner appeared. Homework got checked. I got picked up from school. I thought that was love because no one had told me love could be anything else. Then Ethan was born when I was 10, and the house shifted like a set being rearranged while the audience watches. Suddenly, my parents discovered patience they'd never had for me. Ethan's crying was a phase. My tears were attitude. If I forgot a chore, I was careless. If he forgot, he was just little. And because he was the baby, everything revolved around keeping him happy, which meant keeping the house running, which meant, without anyone saying it, keeping me useful. I became the extra adult, built-in babysitter, spare set of hands. You're older, my mother would say, like those words were a contract. You understand. I changed diapers. I made bottles. I missed sleepovers because someone needed to watch Ethan while my parents ran errands. The errands always took hours. By the time I was 13, "Can you help?" had turned into, "You need to help." When I got my first job at 16, my father sat me down at the kitchen table and explained, responsibility. My paycheck was expected to contribute. Not a token amount real money. You live here, he said. You eat here. Ethan never had that talk. Ethan was the future. After high school, I wanted to go away, just once, to have a room that was mine. My mother laughed softly and said we couldn't afford anything fancy. So I went to community college nearby. I worked. I stayed home. I kept my head down. I built a career anyway, the practical kind that pays bills but doesn't impress relatives at holidays. I married young because I thought that was what you did to escape. I had Harper at 24. And then, 3 years ago, my marriage ended. I won't turn this into a divorce story. I'll just say that the version of love I learned at home didn't exactly make me an expert at choosing it. The shock was what happened after. Life got quiet. I got a small apartment for Harper and me. It wasn't fancy, but it was ours. No one sighed when Harper laughed too loudly. No one made little comments about my parenting. No one acted like I owed them my time just because we shared DNA. For the first time, I wasn't bracing for the next demand. Then my parents called, voices coded in that careful, reasonable tone they use when they want something but don't want to look like they want it. Ethan was in middle school, and suddenly, expenses were rising. My father talked about repairs the house needed. My mother talked about family supporting family. They didn't ask how Harper and I were doing. They didn't ask if I was happy. They asked if I could help. And the offer came, wrapped in fake generosity. "Move back in," my mother said. "Save rent. We'll help with Harper. You'll be less stressed." She said it like she was rescuing me, not reclaiming a resource. I didn't want to. I want that written in ink. I didn't want to go back to the house that trained me to swallow my needs. But I was tired, and I was primed. And I still believed that if I tried hard enough, maybe my parents would see me as more than labor. So, Harper and I moved in. At first, there were smiles. My mother cooked Harper pancakes. My father played a board game with her once. Ethan acted glad to have us around, because he's not cruel by nature, he's just been raised inside a system where my sacrifice is normal. Then the old pattern returned like mold in the walls. Bills appeared on the counter with my name circled. "Can you just grab this since you're heading out?" Turned into, "You should cover this because you're here." My mother started telling people, "Lila moved back home," with the same tone she'd used to say someone got fired. Ethan started bringing friends over and acting like Harper and I were temporary guests, even though my groceries filled half the fridge. The worst part wasn't the money. It was watching Harper learn the same lessons I did. She'd run into the living room excited to show Grandma a drawing, and my mother would smile without looking up from her phone. "That's nice, honey," she'd say, the words empty. Harper would linger, waiting for the warmth that never came, then retreat to my room, quieter each time. I told myself it was stress. I told myself my parents were old. I told myself Harper was sensitive. I told myself anything that meant I didn't have to admit the truth. My parents didn't like being needed by a child who wasn't the one they wanted to show off. And then the Christmas Eve note landed in Harper's hands. My mother thought she was teaching me independence. What she really did was show me the final proof that my daughter would never be safe in that house, not emotionally, not psychologically, not in the small daily ways that turn childhood into a wound. So when I turned off those payments at dawn, I wasn't being dramatic. I was doing what I should have done years ago, removing the fuel from the machine that ran on my compliance. By the time the sun rose, Harper was sitting at the edge of my bed, watching me like she was watching a dam hold back a flood. "Mom," she whispered, "are we still having Christmas?" I knelt in front of her, took her small hands in mine, and said the sentence that changed everything. "Yes, but we're having our Christmas." I didn't tell her about Aspen or evictions or adult cruelty. I just smoothed her hair and forced my voice into steady. "Get your warm socks," I said, making it sound like an adventure. "Pick one stuffed animal, the important one." She blinked. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere people don't write mean notes for kids to find," I said, and I meant it. Then I grabbed my phone and opened my contacts before my courage could wobble. My thumb hovered over Megan's name for half a second, because asking for help is a muscle my family never let me build. Then I pressed call. Megan answered like she already knew something was wrong. "Are you okay?" "Yes," I said, "but I need a Christmas rescue." She didn't ask for details. That's what real friends do when your voice is shaking but you're trying to pretend it isn't. "Bring Harper," she said, instantly firm. "We've got cocoa, we've got food, we've got a tree, we've got adults who aren't rude. Get here." I packed fast and light. Harper's backpack with a change of clothes, her winter coat, her medicine, her favorite stuffed rabbit with the missing ear. I didn't grab much else because the point wasn't moving out in one trip. The point was getting my daughter out of a house that had just told her she was unwanted. Harper watched me stuff socks into a tote bag. "Are we leaving forever?" she asked, trying to sound brave. "We're leaving for now," I said, "and we're going somewhere safe." Megan opened her door before we even knocked. Her living room smelled like cinnamon and pine, and the kind of normal that makes you realize how abnormal your own life has been. Her daughter, Sienna, barreled into Harper like a human missile. "You came!" she shrieked. And in 2 seconds, Harper was wearing a Santa hat and giggling, the tension in her shoulders easing, like a knot finally loosening. I sat on Megan's couch with a mug of cocoa I didn't deserve, watching my child laugh without flinching. Megan didn't pry. She only said, "You can stay as long as you need." And then she put a plate of cookies in front of Harper like this was the most natural thing in the world. That day we did Christmas at Megan's. Cookies, movies, wrapping paper everywhere. Harper laughed, then fell asleep safe against my shoulder, finally. After the kids were down, Megan sat beside me and lowered her voice. "Tell me." So I told her, quietly, the note, the trip, the way my mother dismissed my daughter's fear like it was an inconvenience. Megan listened, jaw tight, and when I finished, she didn't give me platitudes. She said, "They don't get to do that. Not to you, not to Harper." The next morning, while Harper ate cereal at Megan's table, I opened rental listings. I didn't search for perfect. I searched for available now. Safe neighborhood, 2 bedrooms. Good locks. A place where the quiet didn't feel like abandonment. People assume last-minute apartments don't exist. They do, if you're willing to be practical. I toured a modest second-floor unit with sunlight in the kitchen and a courtyard where kids' chalk drawings covered the sidewalk. 3 days later, I had keys. I moved Harper's bed first, because a child needs somewhere to sleep before she needs anything else. Megan helped me haul boxes. Harper carried her rabbit like it was the deed to a new life. When we closed the door of our new apartment, Harper whispered, "This is ours?" "Yes," I told her. "This is ours." Then came the part my parents didn't expect. I went back to their house to collect what belonged to me. When I'd moved in, my mother had complained about the living room like it was my fault it existed. The couch was tired. The dining table was cheap. My father claimed the old recliner made his back hurt. They'd sighed and hinted until I did what I always did. Fixed it. I bought a couch with my bonus because family should be comfortable. I paid for a sturdy dining set on installments. I ordered an air purifier because Harper's allergies flared every winter, and my mother rolled her eyes at all that sneezing. I had receipts for everything. My name on every charge. My money sitting in their living room like a trophy they didn't want to admit I'd earned. So I hired movers because I needed it done fast. In under an hour, the couch, the table, the chairs, and the purifier were on a truck. Harper stood in the doorway of our new place as they carried the couch inside. Her eyes followed it like she was watching proof arrive. When the dining table came in, she ran her hand over the smooth surface and smiled. Not a big, loud smile, a relieved one. That night, I unpacked the kitchen while Harper colored at the table. No one told her she was too loud. No one sighed when she asked for attention. The air felt lighter, like we'd been holding our breath for months, and finally remembered how to inhale. I knew my family would explode when they got back. I didn't know which part would hit first, the missing furniture or the missing money. But I did know this. I was done being surprised by their entitlement. On the 4th day, at 9:12 p.m., my phone rang. "Mom," I watched the screen light up like a warning flare. Harper looked up from her coloring. "Is that Grandma?" "Yes," I said, keeping my voice neutral. Harper's face tightened. "Am I in trouble?" I kissed the top of her head. "No, baby. Not ever." Then I answered. "Lila!" My mother screamed before I could say hello. "What did you do to my living room?" I leaned back in my chair, stared at the couch I bought, now sitting behind me in my own apartment, and said, "I moved out." She sucked in a breath like she couldn't believe words could have consequences. "The sofa is gone," she snapped. "The table, the purifier. Are you out of your mind?" "No," I said evenly. "I'm out of your house." And I took my things. "You stole from us," she hissed. "Call the police," I said. "I'll forward them the receipts." Silence 1 beat 2. Then her tone shifted, still angry but sharpened with something else. "Worry. And why did my payment get declined?" she demanded. The account Ethan said there's an email. I closed my eyes, because here it was, the real emergency. Which payment? I asked, though we both knew. She hesitated, like saying the name would admit the truth. The school, the tuition. I opened my eyes and looked at my daughter, safe in her own home. My card isn't on any of your systems anymore, I said. Adults who take adults-only trips pay like adults. My mother inhaled to scream again. I ended the call before she could. The next morning, my mother left 3 voicemails. The first was rage. The second was bargaining. The third tried a tone I recognized from my childhood, the one that says, "You're about to be grounded for inconveniencing me." I deleted them without listening all the way through. I'd already heard the important part in her hesitation the night before. The tuition payment was the real panic. The furniture was just the loud distraction. Around noon, Ethan called. His voice was careful, like he was walking across glass. "Lila," he said, "can we talk?" "You can talk," I replied. "I'm not signing anything. I'm not asking about the house loan." He rushed. It's the school. Mom says there's paperwork for next term." He stopped, like the word tasted bad. "The co-signer." "You mean me," I said. "Mom means me." Ethan exhaled. "She's freaking out. They can't cover it." I stared at Harper's crayons spread across our table, bright colors in a room that finally felt calm. "Ethan," I said, "when Mom left that note, she didn't worry about what we could cover." He was quiet, then smaller. "I didn't think she'd leave it where Harper could see." "Neither did I said. And yet, an hour later, they arrived. I knew before the knock because Harper froze mid-coloring and looked at me, wide-eyed, like her body recognized them the way it recognized thunder. 3 sharp knocks. Not polite, not patient. Ownership knocks. I walked to the door and looked through the peephole. My mother, my father, and Ethan stood in the hallway like a team photo. My mother in her best coat, chin lifted. My father behind her, jaw set. Ethan off to the side, hands shoved in his pockets, looking like he wanted to disappear. I didn't open the door. I slid the chain into place anyway, because old habits die hard. "What do you want?" I called through the wood. My mother's voice turned syrup sweet. "Lila, honey, open up. Let us talk." "No," I said. A beat. Then my father cleared his throat. "We just need you to listen. I listened on Christmas Eve," I said. "Remember? When you told me to figure it out?" Ethan's voice cut in, urgent. "Lila, please. It's not about—" "It's exactly about it," I said. My mother dropped the sweetness. "This has gone far enough. You made your point." I almost laughed. My point had been my daughters shaking hands. Their point had been Aspen. "You came here for the loan," I said calmly. Silence. Then my father said, quieter, "She can't register for next term without the paperwork." My mother jumped in quickly, like she needed to control the narrative. "We need your signature. Just your signature. You always make things so complicated." "Funny," I said. "You didn't think eviction was complicated." Ethan spoke again, voice pleading. "Lila, it's just a form. If you don't sign, it messes everything up." "What do you mean, everything?" I asked. My life? Harper's life? Or Mom's ability to brag that the family pays for private school? My mother hissed my name. "Don't you dare." "Dare what?" I asked. "Say the truth out loud?" My father tried a different angle. "We're family," he said. "You don't punish family." I rested my forehead against the door for a second, because the irony was almost physical. "You're right," I said. "Family shouldn't punish family. So why did you punish a child?" My mother snapped. "Stop being dramatic." I straightened. "Harper is behind me," I said. "She can hear you. She heard the note. She heard your voice on the phone. She asked if you hated her. If you want to keep pretending this is drama, you can do it somewhere else." There was movement in the hallway. I pictured my mother's eyes darting, calculating. Then she changed tactics again, softer, wounded. I did it for you, she said. You need to grow up. You've been depending on us. I looked around my apartment, the couch I bought, the table I bought. The walls Harper had already started filling with drawings. I'm not depending on you, I said. I was paying to be tolerated. That's not fair, Ethan muttered. Then welcome to unfair, I replied. My mother's voice sharpened. So you're really going to ruin this child's future over a misunderstanding? I laughed once, short and dry. You mean you're going to ruin it by refusing to pay for what you signed up for? My father spoke again, tired now. We can't co-sign, he admitted. Our credit. My mother cut him off, furious that he said the quiet part. It doesn't matter. Lila's name is on it. She just needs to cooperate. And there it was. The whole family machine, exposed in one sentence. My cooperation was assumed, not earned. No, I said. My mother inhaled like she'd been slapped. Excuse me? No, I repeated, steady. And you're not coming in. Ethan's voice cracked. Lila, please. She's scared. I softened 1 inch, and only one. Then she can do what you told me to do, I said. Be an adult. Figure it out, my mother burst. You're ungrateful. Maybe, I said. But Harper will never have to apologize for existing again. Behind me, Harper's small hand slid into mine, warm, trusting, the kind of trust a parent has to deserve every day. I swallowed and set the boundary I should have set years ago. You don't get access to my child, I said. No calls to her school, no surprise visits, no gifts dropped off like bribes. If you ever want contact, you go through me, and you follow my rules. My mother's voice went cold. You can't keep her from us. I can, I said. Watch me, my father murmured. Lila, I didn't flinch. Leave. For a moment, no one moved. Then Ethan shifted first, eyes down. My father turned away, shoulders heavy. My mother stood there a second longer, trying to force the door open with entitlement alone. Then she hissed something under her breath and followed them. When the hallway finally went quiet, it wasn't the empty quiet of abandonment. It was the quiet of safety. I locked the door, slid the chain back into place, and walked to the table where Harper had started coloring again like the world made sense. Mom? She asked softly. Are we going to get kicked out again? I knelt, cupped her cheeks, and answered the only thing that mattered. No, I said. This is our home, and I'm here. I kissed her forehead. For a while, the silence held. No surprise visits, no new voicemails, no guilt-laced texts. Ethan sent one message, just checking you're okay, and I replied, We are. That was all. Harper changed in ways that were both heartbreaking and beautiful. The first week she still startled at knocks. The second week she stopped asking if she was in trouble every time she spilled juice. By the third week, she started singing again while she colored little made-up songs that only made sense to her. One night she said, very seriously, Mom, this house feels like warm. I didn't correct her grammar. I just held her and breathed. 2 months later, my phone lit up with Mom's name. I stared at it, thumb hovering, because I already knew what it wouldn't be, an apology. My mother doesn't apologize. She rewrites history until she's the victim of someone else's reaction. Still, curiosity is a stubborn thing, I answered. Lila, she said, too calm, too careful. We need to talk. No, I replied. You need to talk. I'm listening. A tiny pause, like she disliked the lack of control. It's the house, she said quickly. The mortgage. Of course it was. 5 years ago, my parents had wanted to refinance. Their interest rate was climbing. My father's income was shifting, and the bank wanted more security. My mother had called me crying real tears. At least I think they were real, and told me they could lose everything. I'd been younger then, softer, still convinced that saving them would earn me a place in their hearts. I signed as co-borrower. Just your name, she'd said. Nothing will change. Everything changes. Now she continued. Our payment is going to jump. The lender says we need to refinance again. We just need your signature on the new paperwork. I let the quiet stretch, because sometimes people will keep talking if you don't rescue them with words. My father's voice slid in, subdued. It's nothing big, kiddo. Just a form. Is it nothing? I asked. Or is it big enough that you're calling me after months of silence? My mother snapped. Don't start. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't have to. Why do you need me? I asked. Another pause. Then she said it, tight and resentful. Because your credit helps. There it was again. Not love, not family, utility. If we don't do this, my father added, we might not be able to keep the house. I closed my eyes for a second. Not because I felt guilty, because the irony was sharp. The same people who left an eviction note for my child to find were now asking me to save their home. In the background, Harper was humming at the table. The sound anchored me to what was real. I'm not signing, I said. My mother's breath hitched, then turned to fury. You can't do this to us. You did it to me, I replied. On Christmas Eve. That was different, she snapped. Like different is a spell that erases harm. No, I said. It was the same. You expected me to absorb the consequences so you wouldn't have to. My father tried soft again. Lila, please. We're your parents. And Harper is my daughter, I said. You left her shaking. My mother's voice went sharp, desperate. So you're going to let us lose the house because you're holding a grudge? I pictured my mother's neat handwriting. Don't make a scene. I pictured Harper's wet cheeks at 541A, and I understood something that felt like freedom. Protecting my child will always look like cruelty to people who benefited from my silence. I'm not holding a grudge, I said. I'm holding a boundary. Ethan's voice suddenly appeared, faint, like he'd been listening on speaker. Lila, he said quietly. Is there any way? I softened, just a little. Ethan, I said. I love you, but I'm not being the family's emergency fund anymore. He didn't argue. He just went silent, and in that silence, I heard the beginning of him seeing the shape of the system he grew up in. My mother tried one last time, voice syrupy again. Honey, think about it. We can start over. We can all be together again. Together again meant me paying again. Together again meant Harper learning again that she had to earn tolerance. No, I said, calm and final. And don't come to my door. My mother's sweetness vanished. You're selfish. Maybe, I agreed. But my kid sleeps through the night. I hung up. After that, there were no more calls. A week later, a package arrived from Ethan. A small snow globe and a note in his messy handwriting. It didn't defend Mom. It didn't ask me to bend. It only said, I'm sorry Harper saw that. I should have stopped it. I didn't know how. I cried over that note, not because it fixed anything, but because it was the first time someone in my family named the harm instead of denying it. I texted back. Thank you. That's a start. And for the first time, I believed Ethan might someday build a life that doesn't require someone else to bleed quietly. We're taking it slow, but the door is open for him, not for them. I don't know if they found another co-signer. I don't know if they sold the house. I don't know if my mother is telling relatives that I abandoned them. She can tell whatever story helps her sleep. It's not my job to manage her reality anymore. What I do know is what happened in my home. Harper stopped whispering, Mom, wake up, like the world was ending. She started saying, Mom, look, like the world was beginning. She learned the layout of our neighborhood. She made friends downstairs. She taped her drawings to our refrigerator without asking permission first, because she finally believed she belonged in the space she occupied. Sometimes, late at night, I still feel the old reflex, the urge to fix, to rescue, to smooth everything over so no one is angry. Then I remember my mother's handwriting, and I remember my daughter's shaking hands, and I let the reflex pass like a wave that doesn't get to pull me under anymore. So tell me, if you were in my place, Would you have signed the papers to save their house? Or would you have chosen your child's peace the way I did? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you want more stories like this, families crossing lines and learning consequences, hit subscribe.